President Pitzer, Mr. Vice President, Congressman Thor, Senator Wiley, and Congressman Miller, Mr. Bob Sanders, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your President having made me an honorary visiting professor, and I will assure you that my first lecture would be very brief. I'm delighted to be here in front of you all and delivering this very special occasion speech where we've decided finally to send our people, US people, to the moon. We meet at a college noted for knowledge, in a city noted for progress, in a state noted for strength, in a state all of three, for we meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. Despite the striking fact that most of the scientists that the world has ever known are alive and working today, despite the fact that this nation's scientific manpower is doubling every 12 years in a rate of growth more than 3 times that of our population as a whole. Despite that, the vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come, but condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of about a half century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to ride and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year, and then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power, a very dignity kind of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones were founded. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. And now, if America's new spacecraft succeeds in reaching Venus, we will have literally reached the stars before midnight tonight. This is a very breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. New ignorance, new problems, new dangers, new challenges. Surely the opening vistas of space promise high cost and hardship, but we, United States of America, do it. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer to rest, to wait. But the city of Houston, the state of Texas, this country of United States of America was not built by those dreamers, waited and rested and wished to look behind them. This country was conquered by those who move forward, and so will space. William Bradford, speaking in 106 of the founding of the Philemon Bay Colony, said that all great and honorable inventors are accompanied with great difficulties, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man, in his quest for knowledge and innovations and courage, is determined and cannot be deterred. The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we just join it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time in the history of United States of America. Those who came before us made certain that this country rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. And this generation doesn't intend to founder in the back was of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon and to the planets beyond, and we have fought that we shall not see it governed by the hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace. We have fought that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and freedom. Yet the vows of the nation can only be fulfilled if we in this nation are first, and therefore we intend to be first. In short, our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men, and to become the world's leading space above all. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new experience to be unfolded. And they must be won and used for the progress for all people. For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. I do not say that we should or will go unprotected against the hostile misuse of space any more than we go unexpected against the hostile use of land or sea. But I do say that space can be explored and mastered without feeding the fires of war, without repeating the mistakes that man has made in extending his reach around this globe of ours. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are art, they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and may never come again. But why, some say, why the moon? Why should it be the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? It is for these reasons that I regard this decision last year to shift our efforts in space from low to high gear as among the most important decisions that will be made during my incumbency in the office of the presidency. In the last 24 hours, we have seen facilities now being created for the greatest and most complex exploration in man's history. To be sure, all this costs us all a good deal of money. This year's space budget is 3 times what it was in January 1961. And it is greater than the space budget of the previous 8 years combined. That budget now stands at $500 and $400 million a year, a staggering sum, though somewhat less than we pay for cigarettes and cigars every year. Space expenditures and explorations will soon rise some more dollars, from 40 cents per person per week to more than 50 cents a week for every man, woman, human, and child in the United States, for we have given this program a high national priority. I'm the one who is doing all the work, so we just want you to stay cool for a minute. However, I think we are going to do it. And I think that we must pay what needs to be paid. I don't think we ought to waste any money, but I think we ought to do the job. And this will be done in the decade of the 60s. It may be done while some of you are still here at school, at this college, and at the university. It will be done during the terms of office of some of the people who sit here on this platform, but it will be done. And it will be done before the end of this decade. And I'm very delighted at this university is playing part in putting men on the moon as part of a great national effort of the United States of America. Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there. It is there. Well, space is there. We're just going about to explore it. And the moon and the planets are also there. New hopes for knowledge in a quest of searching for deeper knowledge. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous, most challenging, dangerous, and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. Thank you.